Thank you for coming and joining us. We're here tonight to tell you about the Montgomery County Infants and Toddlers program and hopefully answer some questions that you might have. And I'd like to just give a little bit of background about early intervention is what we are and what we do, birth to 3. And early intervention is a federally mandated program that each state provides early intervention services, and each state chooses how they deliver those services. And in Montgomery County, it's the Department of Health and Human Services in conjunction with Montgomery County Public Schools that provides the services to the children. So we can go to the next slide, Joy.
Oh, hold on.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we'll answer some of these questions for you. For the families, why should you call us? What is it we can do to help you? What if you don't know if there's anything wrong, but it's just a gut feeling that you have? Where do I go to receive services, and how do I get my child assessed? So hopefully I'll be able to answer all these questions, and that's my plan. So we can go forward to the next slide. Great. Okay. So as a parent, are you concerned about your child's development? Do you think your child might have difficulty with movement? And so as a baby, what about their head control? Are they able to lift their head and keep it off the floor? Are they rolling around? Are they eventually sitting and crawling and pulling to stand? So those are some things that you might have a concern about if your child's not doing those things. Talking, are they able to express themselves with words, or are they just grunting and pointing and you think that they should be talking more? Do they understand what you're saying to them? If you ask them to give you something or you ask them what they want, are they understanding you? Are they learning? Are they learning how to play with their toys? Are they, following your directions? Are they pushing buttons on toys to make noises? Are they putting things in and out and emptying them? Are they rolling cars, instead of flipping over and playing with the wheels? How are they interacting and socializing? I know right now with COVID and the pandemic that they're not really out socializing with other children, but how are they socializing within the family or within your group that you are socializing with? And eating. So some children, if the younger ones, if you had a concern about how they're sucking, either the breast or the bottle, or once they start eating food, are they able to swallow easily? Are they able to change textures? Like, do they have a problem with different textures of foods? And so those are things that as a parent, if you have any concerns about that, you are more than welcome to make a referral. But we always recommend that you talk to your pediatrician first and see what they're thinking. And if you want to go to the next slide, Joy. So, there we go. Okay, so how you refer yourself or how the doctor refers you to our program. So there's a couple ways that it can be done. The first one is the intake line, and that number is listed here. And you would talk to a person and they would take the information from you. They would get your address and phone number, and if you speak another language, and you can do that same referral online. And we do have a link to that we'll show you later on, I believe. But that is the link, and it's through the state of Maryland. And on that link, there's also a lot of information about typical development. And so it's a nice site to look at, even if you're not making a referral, if you just want some good information. So anyone can refer to our program. It can be the parent, it can be the professional like your doctor, or it could be the hospital. We see children from birth to 3. So sometimes we'll get referrals from the hospital if you have a child who was born extremely premature with low birth weight, or a child who has a medical diagnosis that might have a high probability of delays in their development. So they would be referred to us as well. You just need to be a Montgomery County resident to participate in our program. We do not look at income or immigration status. It doesn't matter. Anybody can be referred to our program as long as they're a Montgomery County resident. Go to thank you. Oop. Great. Okay, so, oops. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Joy. Okay. Our program is free to you living here in Montgomery County, and it's voluntary. And so when we say voluntary, it's voluntary on your part. So if your doctor refers you or the hospital were to refer you, you do not have to go forward with the evaluation or go forward with anything with us. So it's voluntary on your part. If you're not interested, that's okay. At this time, everything is virtual. Normally, we would be within your home. We would come to your home or where your child spends their day. So if they were in a daycare. And so due to COVID, we're not allowed to come into the homes at this time. And so we're doing everything virtual. And we're using different platforms like Zoom or Google or Doxy. And it's working well. We are a parent coaching model. So we're able to show you what it is to do with your child throughout your regular day that's going to help them with their development and reach their milestones and do the things that you're hoping that they're going to be able to do. I have an example here of a home visit virtually. This is not within the Montgomery County program. It was recorded with the parents' permission, and it's through the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center. And so I think it's a great one to take a peek at if we can do that now.
Okay. So Joy, I'm gonna have to go, and if you can stop sharing. Okay, thank you.
Today. Absolutely. And how are you guys doing with all of this?
We can't see it.
Hello. So thank you all for letting me.
Okay,
Okay.
share the thing here. Okay.
Record today. Absolutely. And how are you guys doing?
Let me go back a little
with
bit.
using his hearing aids and also with learning sign language as a family.
I want to.
That's okay.
Thank
Okay.
you all for letting me record today.
Absolutely.
And how are you guys doing with all of this?
We're managing.
Hanging in there, huh?
Yes, exactly.
I understand.
As soon as the pandemic started closing everything down, the county was incredibly awesome with moving to virtual visits literally within a week of our last in-home visit. Paula jumped right into it. She had our visits up and running weekly.
There's also been instances where, you know, his bigger brothers are screaming and you could see him physically react to it, and not in a
Positive.
positive way.
Not in a joyful way?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now where do you go? How is the follow-up? Right when the pandemic hit, I mean, the day that the schools were closed, that same day we were getting information from our organization that we were going to switch to virtual visits. It was impressive to me how Coyote just jumped on board and went with it to best meet our family's needs. Of course, there are always bumps in the road, but actually now I have 100% of my families doing virtual visits.
Since the pandemic has occurred and we've had to switch over to virtual visits, we're still able to take advantage of her expertise. Through the computer, we're able to show her why we're concerned about different things. She's able to watch our technique and give us feedback and pointers about if we should tweak something a little bit. So right now, it's so beneficial to at least still have those services available to us.
I prepped like I normally prep for any visit. I reviewed the last note. She had actually sent me a video of him on a new wedge that we had just ordered. So I reviewed that video. I just reviewed like I would normally review for a visit. I just went on my normal routines.
So the wedge is a new piece of equipment that Paula was able to order for us. It's been the one piece of equipment that has allowed Xander to be comfortable with tummy time the most. So we have been looking for new ways to use the wedge to help him with his development.
So the wedge seems to be working pretty well.
Oh, I love the wedge. I actually like the wedge better than the peanut ball. The peanut ball, don't get me wrong, I think is a little bit more difficult for him. I think it might work those muscles a little bit harder.
Right.
But also he's more resistant to it than he is the wedge. The wedge, he's kind of like, hey, this feels good. I'm on an angle.
Good.
So
You want to see him on the wedge?
Yeah, let's do that.
do that. Okay.
And when I saw the clip that you sent,
Mhm.
you could tell when he started to get fatigued because that tilt
Yep.
just really showed up, you know?
Oh, you can see him starting to
Yes,
go to
exactly.
the side.
So when maybe if we see that today, if we can try to kind of shift him over, I don't know if my message is making.
I took a video of Xander using the wedge to show her the progress that he was making. And so it was great that I could still communicate with her and send her a text message with a video to say, hey, this is what he's doing when you're not here. Is there anything that you're seeing that we can talk about when we have our visit? So she's able to actually preview all those videos and everything before we have a virtual visit so we can maximize our time together.
And are you still seeing him doing some nice purposeful reaching? I know you'd said last time he was reaching for Dad's face. And
Actually he's doing more. We're seeing, what was it? Oh, so this little thing,
Yeah.
he actually grabbed this the other day. He was on, I don't remember if he was on his side. We're seeing a lot more side rolling, like getting to his
Oh,
side on his
good.
own.
fully
And-
to the side.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he ended up grabbing this and he had pulled it up to his mouth and everything. We've got one of these things too.
Uh-huh.
So I've been having him go on his side and then he likes this side in particular. And then the one that has the buttons too.
And he can activate the buttons.
Yeah, so we've been trying to work on him learning how to push
Uh-huh.
against them, so.
And is he rolling to both sides pretty equally, or is it
Yeah.
one?
I'm seeing both sides. It's almost like he'll do one and come back to center and then go to another.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. So if you want to tuck his shoulders just a little bit more underneath, or his elbows, sorry, right underneath.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Bring you back. Oh, good bird.
Very nice. And look at that little hand opening up a little bit. Now let's see if you can, where'd your pinky go? Oh, there's a smile. Hi. So if you kind of back your support off just a little bit, let's see
Okay.
if you think he'll try to reach a little bit for anything in front of him yet, or is that still really tough?
We like Yoey. Let's see. You want to, and there he goes. You going to your side? You gonna
Yeah.
let him?
I think there's a little bit of spit up too, so maybe if you
Oh, that was just bubbles.
Bubbles.
Okay. Hard to tell on video. I was working with Xander's family with the new wedge, just guiding them through that positioning, where his shoulders, where his elbows should be, and maybe offering a next step. Like, okay, can he reach towards that pacifier a little bit or towards that toy? And if it's too much, that's okay. We'll meet him where he is.
Sometimes I feel like he's sliding down
Yes.
on it. I have the towel. I don't know if you have a recommendation for something else to put here to give him a little more grip.
You have a towel on it.
I have a towel on here, yeah.
I usually use a towel.
Do you have the ability to make, I'm trying to think of something that you could create on your own there, maybe just placing something a little bit heavier or filling up a sock or something with coins, or with, if you happen to have some sand or anything from a sandbox, I don't know if you would or not.
Yep.
And then just kind of placing it between his legs so that it acts as a little bit of a bumper. He's doing so much better on this. You can tell. I mean, yes, he's still working hard, fine, but he
We should be stopping the video.
definitely seems to be less frustrated.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up.
Nice. That's much better than it was.
So he has a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks. There we go. Okay, great. And so you can see that it's really about using what's in the home, you know, the little boy, his Xander's toys that are there, and the rattle, and they did get that wedge, but just all the little things that are in the home. So we're not asking families to go out and buy things or order things. We want to use what is already in your home and what you do within your daytime, within your day. And I just wanted to add that when everything started with the pandemic and throughout this last year, families who do not have access to computers or Wi-Fi, we have DHHS and Montgomery County Public Schools has provided to the families computers and MiFi devices to help with this virtual environment now. So we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so once the referral has been made, okay, and the intake coordinator, the intake team has received the referral from either the parent or the physician or the hospital, they will distribute that to the specific geographic site throughout Montgomery County. We have 5 sites in Montgomery County, and we're divided geographically. And so it's based on your home school and your address. And so that referral will be sent to the specific site. And once the site receives it, they will then, you know, each site determines who's the person that's going to make the phone call. But we have, from the time of referral, we have 45 days to complete 2 visits. And that is an eligibility visit to determine if the child is eligible for our program, and then a family assessment. And once those 2 visits have been completed, if we need both of them, so first of all, the eligibility, if the child isn't eligible for our program, then they wouldn't need to go on with the second visit. So once those 2 visits have been completed, we have 30 days to begin services with the family. And then we're constantly reviewing what we're working on. But every 6 months, we do a formal review, an informal review on the outcomes and strategies and everything that we've been working on. So after the timeline, the next slide, the person at the site, the geographic site, somebody will call the family and they'll get background information by a phone interview. And they'll just gather basic information about what is the concerns you're having, you know, if there was any kind of difficulty with the pregnancy or the birth, and then we'll make sure that we have the correct information for birth date and address, phone number, email, make sure that we have the correct email address, because now everything is done through email and through the virtual platform. So the next slide.
So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the concepts of the eligibility and the family assessment. So you've made that phone call, or you've done the referral one way or another, virtually, or either through the website or through the phone call. You've then had a phone call to just talk about your background and a little bit of that background information. And then what's going to happen after that is you're going to have a team that's going to meet with you. And this is going to be a meeting that we are typically using Google Meets as our platform. That meeting, you'll need to be present and your child will need to be present. We have some, if you have these materials or toys at your home, we suggest you to have them nearby, but they're certainly not required because we have managed to find some resources and tools that are standardized, that are acceptable in our practice to be able to use to complete that developmental assessment and determine eligibility. So when we do the assessment, when we do that very first meeting with you, that we're looking at all areas of development. So you may have called because you had a concern about your child's motor, like maybe they're not crawling and you think it's time that they crawl. You may be calling because maybe they're not yet playing with toddler friends in the way that you would expect. Or you may call because they're not speaking as early as you would expect. So we're absolutely going to look at that area that's your area of concern, but we're also going to look at all the areas that children develop in. And those are those areas that Joanne shared at the beginning. Their motor development, their play skills, their language development, their social skills, and their fine motor skills as well. So how they use their hands and to manipulate toys and engage in activities. So we're going to do that assessment. It is the tool that we use, because it is virtual, is a tool that combines two pieces. It's a parent interview. So part of that conversation will be an interview with you. There are questions that are asked that sound really scripted because that's part of a standardized assessment. So we'll ask you some questions, but we'll also watch your child and you play together, because that's going to tell us really, what is it like? And now we understand we're getting a snapshot, a one-day kind of snapshot, but that's why we want to add that parent input through that interview process. So once that we've been able to review those areas of development, our providers, at least at our site, usually have to but leave the meeting with you for maybe 10 minutes or so, because they need to be able to do the math. They need to figure out if your child is eligible for services. And then on the next slide, you'll see how are children eligible for services with our program. So there's a few ways. First is if your child demonstrates a 25% delay in any of those areas. So in that formal assessment, your child may show that they have a specific delay, and we're going to give you a score that tells you, if your child's 18 months, the test may give you a score that your child is currently functioning in that area at 14 months. And then that's where that math part comes in, right? So there has to be a 25% delay. This is also something that is very different state to state. It's in the state of Maryland, the requirement is a 25% delay in one area, and that is not necessarily true in other states. So we're going to look to see if that's true. That might not be true for your child. It might be that there's just something atypical. So it's not necessarily a delay that we can measure, but there's something that is happening with your child that's not typical for development. So we can identify those areas and we can provide you services. The other way a child might qualify is if they have a diagnosis of a disorder, a syndrome that indicates that they would have a high probability of a delay at some point in their life. So and that often those referrals for high probability will come through your pediatrician or the hospital, but of course you as a parent can make that referral as well. So if your child is eligible, the next part that our team does, that's right, Joy, is the routines-based interview. This is it's a structured interview, and we have all been trained to be able to complete this interview to fidelity. And what we want to know in that conversation with you, and hopefully it's with you and any other people in that child's life that spend a lot of time with them. So that might be grandma and grandpa, that might be dad or mom, or it might be with the child care provider, because if your child is at a child care most of the day, we might need to also include that person in this conversation to see what is a typical day like. So in that conversation that you'll have with two providers, again, will come out the same two typically who, or at least at our site, not necessarily true at every site, will come out again, and they will have a conversation virtually, have a conversation with you. And that conversation is going to start, at the beginning of your day. What is your day like? And then they're going to ask you some additional probing questions to find out, okay, you shared that first thing we get up and we change diaper. Well, what happens when you change the diaper? Where is your baby? Where are you? How is your baby making eye contact with you? How is your baby engaging in that time? Are they rolling from side to side? Are they trying to grab a toy? Are they babbling? So we're going to ask some more questions to find out really in detail what is happening during that time of day. And then in that conversation, we're also going to ask you, does that work well? Is that working for you as a routine? Diaper changing works fantastically at our house. Or no, diaper changing is a nightmare because there's screaming and attempts to roll off the table and it doesn't work so great. So you'll let us know, is that an area where you're concerned or that it's not working so great? Once we have that conversation, we're able to help you identify, so we do it collaboratively, things that you've identified as your areas of concern. So what are things that are happening day to day in your life that are impacting your family's daily life? And then once we've kind of made that list, we ask you to prioritize them. So what's your number one concern? What is the very first thing we want to work on together to be able to solve that problem? And once the family is able to identify those concerns in a priority order, after that, what we do is develop outcomes. And that's kind of the more formal piece that goes on the IFSP, the Individualized Family Service Plan. And I think that's an important thing to note, that we are doing family service. So even though maybe your 6-month-old qualified for services, what's happening in your whole family dynamic, maybe your 4-year-old, you have some concerns about how they're playing together, interacting together. And we are here to support your family in whatever ways you've identified are needed. So once we've identified those outcomes or goals that we want to work on for the next 6 months, the team goes back, they chat with other teammates, and they say, hey, this is the family we've been working with. Here's a little bit of background, and here's our outcomes. And then the team identifies who is the most skilled and the best match for you as a family. And that person would then be able to go out and within, like Joanne said, within 30 days, start providing services in that coaching model with your child, and caregivers or at child care centers, whatever works for you and your family, because it truly is individualized.
Right.
And then Joanne's going to talk about that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so after we've done this RBI, this routine-based interview with the family, and still during this time, we're going to talk to the family about what they believe and what we see as the child's strengths and their needs. And we have what's called a child outcome summary that the state, it's part of our IFSP, that we need to make sure that we're looking at each child compared to other children their age. And we look at 3 different areas and specifically, and one is developing positive social emotional skills. And so for a baby, are they laughing out loud? Are they looking at an adult's face? And for an older child, are they beginning to look to the parent for reassurance, or are they wanting to do everything themselves? Are they trying to become independent? And then the second area is acquiring and using knowledge and skills. And so for a baby, again, it would be like exploring their toys in different ways, or playing with their hands, getting their hands to their mouth. And for an older child, it might be looking at pictures in a book or naming their a few body parts, and maybe starting to talk a little bit as they get closer to 1.5 or so, or even at 1, some children have a few words. And then the third area is taking appropriate actions to meet their needs. And that goes with communicating as well as eating, feeding themselves, dressing themselves. And so those are the 3 categories where we look at the children's strengths and needs. And then as Tori said, we are based on all those things with the family. We're talking with the family about this. We're going to develop the outcomes with the family's input for the child and the strategies. How are we going to achieve those? And then again, service, like who is going to be the best provider when they go back and talk with the team. And then we have environment here because, as Tori said, we do go into daycares and we are going into the homes when we're not in a pandemic. So right now it's all virtual. Our environment is virtual. So we can go on. And back to what Tori said, after we gathered all that information, we're going to develop our IFSP. And this is an acronym that families know all about. It's an Individualized Family Service Plan. And as Tori was saying, it's the family, the whole family, not just the child. So we develop that, and the parents always receive copies of that. And we always want their input in developing the IFSP. So next. So the Infants and Toddlers program, again, here's the phone number, and then we had the link to the online referral, and we are birth to 3. We say 34.5 months because then that's getting, close to the end in those 45 days where we have to be able to get those visits in. And so Tori is now going to talk about what happens after that.
So if we can go ahead and add that link to the chat so families can see that web link, and then to the MCITP referral, that link, if we can add that MCITP referral link, and if we can go ahead and screen share the page so everybody can see what that web page looks like as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
For the MCITP?
The referral one, yep.
Okay. You want the one with the babies, or you want
one with just one baby?
With one baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Hold on a second. This is with one baby. Okay. See that? Yeah. Here we go. Share.
There we go. So once you go to that referral.mditp.org website, this is what you'll see. And then if you see there at the top, you can find out developmental milestones. So what's going to happen when, typically as a child develops. It also has information about our program, similar to what was shared today. And then it gives you that link to be able to start a referral. So if you want to start a referral for your child and family, or for your child, you're going to start here on this website. And that's how you can get the process started at 1 a.m. If you're up for feeding and you're concerned, feel free to go ahead and complete it this way. The phone number is awesome, but there's not people there 24 hours a day or 7 days a week. The website is there for you. Then I do want to talk about another resource, which is the other website, the one that has the MCPS-MD. Yep, perfect. So this is a website that you can find on the Montgomery County Public Schools website under the Infants and Toddlers program. This is a website that our MCITP providers developed to, again, help provide that information about developmental milestones. These developmental milestones are shared with you. If you scroll down just a little bit further, you can see the areas in the circle there we go. That so if you want to find out, what happens in regards to stages of listening, what happens in regards to using your body. So that's moving big muscles, moving little muscles. So all of those, you would click on the area of the circle, and then you're going to see that there's different stages that you can look at. They're very purposefully is not specifically, they're not age, because every child develops at their own rate and pace. So we didn't want to specifically put age on there as far as levels, but we did put what happens first, second, third. So you can see those stages. The other thing, if we want to scroll back up to the top of the page, is on the top right. If you click on that one that says resources, that we have a variety of resources on this web page for you as well. So we've got the resources called Healthy Beginnings, and that's another resource that, similar to this website, it shows you, so this website gives you videos, little video snippets to tell you, like, here's an idea, here's an activity that you can do with your child and related to listening, or here's an activity you can do with your child related to play. This gives you that same information. They're just not video snips. This is a document that you can read through, and you can look at, what happens when as children develop, but also, what are some things you might see or things you might engage in with your child. We also have a link to the MCITP Family Support Network. So the Department of Health and Human Services supports our program with this role. And then we have the link to the Department of Health and Human Services information that one kind of rolls you back, but it takes you back to where you started with the Montgomery County website. And then we have a variety of different resources here. With the CDC, we have 0 to 3, which is a national website that provides, again, information and resources for you to learn about your children, child development, and again, strategies. So there's resources here, there's information here for you to use if you're thinking about, is it appropriate? Should I refer my child to the Infants and Toddlers program? We have all these resources available to answer those questions for you. And also, just don't hesitate, right? If you have that gut feeling, if you have that concern, then absolutely feel free to refer. We are able to meet with families all the time. And sometimes children are not eligible for services, but we can give them that information, that peace of mind, and any resources they might need to address their concerns. So if we go back to the slideshow, I wanted to talk about the next step in the process. So what as we've shared, we are a birth to 3 program. So we provide services for, and we're able to start that process for you with ages birth to 3. But then, we know kids, so if we go to the next slide, we know kids, there's concerns after age 3. It's not like a magic number to stop. So if your child is older than, and Joanne, correct me, 34 and a half months?
Yes, 34.
Yeah. If your child is older than 34 and a half months, then you would go ahead and do a referral to Child Find. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But children, as they leave the Infants and Toddlers program, they have the opportunity, parents have the choice of whether they want to stay with us for a little bit longer, which many of our parents in the virtual setting are choosing to, or to transition to school-based services. And in school-based services, they're called PEP services. So it's a program that serves children that have a variety of different disabilities. Most of the children in PEP classes have, moderate to mild learning disabilities, or in some cases, more severe areas of need. And they do have, that's when you transition from what we've been talking about, the IFSP, the family plan, to an IEP, which is the education plan. So when you're ready for your child to go to school, and when you're ready for there to be more direct focus on your child's development in regards to learning, then that would be the time for you to transition to those classes. There's a wide variety of options that your child might match for, and it's a really huge continuum of services that MCPS offers to their youngest students. So that would be an option for you once your child is over 34 and a half months. So how would you get that started if your child is that age? And that's the next slide. So if your child is 34 and a half months or older, you're going to give a call to Child Find. I believe right now, though, I think you need to go to the Child Find website on MCPS's website. So if you go to the MCPS website and just look for Child Find, you'll find out how to do the referral since we're in this current virtual setting. So it's a little different right this minute because of the virtual world. So that's, again, very similar to what we talked about as far as the intake process with MCITP. It's just, this is an intake process for kids that are a little bit older, and then they're going to be able to do that similar assessment and then move on to an IEP development instead of an IFSP. So that is our presentation for today.